Hello, my name is Maisie Keaton, and I am doing a presentation for my author video presentation assignment in WorldLit 2. My presentation is over Emily Dickinson. The poem I chose was Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Emily Dickinson's poem compares hope to a small bird that lives within the soul. The bird continues to sing sweetly, even during life's toughest storms, and never asks for anything in return. Through this metaphor, Dickinson shows that the hope is constant, comforting, resilient, and offers strength in the hardest times. A summary or a list of themes and tone and imagery in the poem is main metaphor. The main metaphor in this poem is that hope is compared to a bird, which is what lives in your soul and helps you continue on. The theme of the poem is that hope is powerful, comforting, persistent, and remains even in difficult times. The tone is gentle, optimistic, uplifting, encouraging. The imagery would be that the bird singing sweetly symbolizes the uplifting nature of hope. The message of the poem would be that hope asks for nothing in return and continues to give strength even in hardship. The structure of the poem itself is that it is written in three quatrains, which is a 3-4-line stanza. And the overall meaning of the poem is that hope lives inside every person and endures through challenges, offering comfort without demanding anything back. Emily Dickinson wrote this poem during a period of when she was exploring themes of faith, resilience, and the human spirit. This was just before the Civil War, so Dickinson's poem focused on the hope for a better future and allowed her comfort in its meaning. Some background knowledge on Emily Dickinson was that she was born in 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts. She was very involved in her family life, taking care of her mother alongside her younger sister, and also caring for her home. She was very close with her family, along with her brother and father, who were both lawyers and were often away from home. Dickinson rarely left her home, though, and she was known to be someone who would stay cooped up or just introverted. After her passing in 1886, her family found a box that they did not know of, filled of about 900 poems. It was then that the family edited and selected certain poems to be published under her name, which made her be so famous. Dickinson's formal schooling includes about 7 years at Amherst Academy and about a year or so of Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, which is now known as Mount Holyoke College, in around 1847. During Dickinson's early 20s, though, she began writing passionately, professionally, and even published some works anonymously. These works included a letter called The Indicator in 1850 and a poem called Sic Transit Gloria Mundi and the Springfield Daily Republican in 1852. Some major works of hers is Hope is the Thing with Feathers, Because I Could Not Stop for Death, I Felt a Funeral in My Brain, and I'm Nobody, Who Are You? Some author influences. Emily Dickinson had many influences such as the Bible, William Shakespeare, Romantic poets, the themes of isolation, death, and loss, contemporary writers, and the ideas of transcendentalism. Emily Dickinson also influenced many writers, poets, and thinkers such as T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, Stevens, Williams, Sexton, Rich, Moore, other authors such as Bishop, Plath, Brooks, and other feminist writers and contemporary poets. And into detail on who influenced Dickinson and how, Emily Dickinson was influenced by many writers, thinkers, and personal experiences that shaped her poetic style and themes. She drew inspiration from the Bible and its scriptures, using them to express her curiosity about the spirit and the soul in her poems. Romantic poets such as Wordsworth, Keats, and Emerson also inspired her, whose transcendental ideas about nature and individuality deeply impacted her worldview. The deaths of her friends and loved ones with the war around her increased her fascination with themes of mortality and the afterlife, while writers such as Elizabeth Barrett Browning inspired her emotional and independent voice. And into detail on who did Dickinson influence with her works, with her poems, and how. Emily Dickinson also influenced many writers, poets, and thinkers after her works were published. Her bold style and unique voice inspired many modern poets, such as T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, William Carlos Williams. She also influenced feminist and confessional poets, such as Sylvia Plath and Elizabeth Bishop. Dickinson's impact continues in contemporary culture, inspiring writers such as Gwendolyn Brooks and others who value individuality and emotional honesty in their work. Some historical context. The American Civil War was a defining event during Dickinson's adulthood, and war themes of death, loss, and human suffering appeared frequently in her poetry. The war also caused a sense of isolation and grief, both in her work but also in her personal life. Even during post-Civil War America, the country's ongoing reconstruction and the national identity shifting caused Dickinson to withdraw from society even further. During this time, her work focused on themes of mortality, immortality, and the nature of the soul. The author's impact. Emily Dickinson's work made a lasting social, philosophical, theological, and cultural impact. Even though her poetry was not widely recognized until after her death, she challenged the social expectations of women in the 19th century by choosing a life of independence and dedicating herself fully to writing. Through her poems, she became a symbol of female creativity and self-reliance, often expressing the inner struggles and strength of womanhood. Her poetry often explored deep questions about existence, identity, consciousness, truth, reflecting transcendentalist ideas. Also, another major theme in her work was religion and the individual's personal relationships with the divine. This caused a new view in theological and spiritual views. Ultimately, Dickinson revolutionized American poetry, helping to shape modern literature with her unique style, and over time became an icon of individuality and nonconformity, inspiring artists, feminists, writers, and even shaping modern music and culture. And diving deeper into feminism, Emily Dickinson is often seen as an early figure of feminism. Even though she lived during the 1800s, before the women's rights movement fully emerged, she was a very independent person who rebelled against the socially conservative ways of womanhood during the time. Dickinson kept to herself and chose not to marry or have children, which itself was abnormal for the time. She expressed this viewpoint and indifference in her poetry, expressing emotions and ideas that women of her time were often discouraged from sharing openly. Many of these poems included themes of identity, power, and the limitations placed on women, female independence, and self-expression. This defiance of socially accepted norms for women during its time is what made her be seen as a feminist later when her poetry was published. And finally, my final thoughts. After learning about Emily Dickinson and reading some of her poetry, I believe that there is a reason why she is very well known. She is a very well known poet and writer. I admire how she uses imagery such as the bird to represent powerful ideas that still feel very meaningful today. Her independence and willingness to challenge society's expectations for women are very modern for her time and very admirable. This challenge or rebellion shows just how ahead of her time she was and how unique she was from others. I think that all her poems, either about hope or death, have feeling and emotion that are captured very well. And that is my presentation on Emily Dickinson.